My whole life revolved around either getting drugs, selling drugs, smoking drugs, or trying to find more money to get drugs. And that was for a good 15 years. Before I went to the jail for the last time, I remember dropping a duffel bag full of money on the ground and counting it. It was $600,000. And that was from a week's worth of what I was doing.
Ben Lowe is men's leadership coach and founder of The New Age Man. Ben works with high-functioning men who are privately battling self-sabotage, addiction, overwork, and relationship breakdown.
The beautiful thing about that is that my set point for where I feel comfortable when it comes to money means that my belief is that I can make it. I was associated with bikies at the time. I had an incident where I had a 410 shotgun put down my throat over money. Then also, I just gotten out of a big charge with jail, potentially 8 years, and I still hadn't woken up. The real turning point for me, that wake-up call for me was the program I run, it's 3 core elements or 3 pillars. The first one's self-discovery, because without actually knowing how far broken, I guess you could say, or how far gone you are, and actually getting an audit on your life, you know, obviously like you do in business, right? You take an audit, you take stock of what's going on. You're taking inventory of your entire life, every single area, to see where things are falling apart, where your needs aren't being met, where you might be neglecting things. And once you've got that on paper, it's like a slap in the face.
So Ben, mate, take us back to the first day that you walked out of prison.
Oof, that's...
Back then, if your life was a movie, what would the audience have been screaming at the screen telling you to do?
Welcome onto the pod, brother.
I hope you learned your fucking lesson. No, so honestly, the first time walking out of prison, I was locked up 6 times.
Oh, fucking
I was a very slow learner. You could definitely say I was a slow learner, to say the least. Longest period of time was 1.5 years, total of 4 years across that 6 times. But the first time walking out of prison, I remember it was like I just achieved the biggest thing in my entire life. And walking out, honestly, I felt like a rock star. You're walking out this gate, this big chain gate sort of opens up, and there's a bus there that take you down to the front of where the prison is. And I remember just walking out, and I had this overwhelming sense, this feeling of just like, I've done, like, it was almost like I'd achieved something. And there was no other way to describe it apart from the fact that at that point in my life, I didn't really have anything or much going for me. And so that was actually my biggest achievement, which is crazy to think, right? Getting out of prison. Imagine, so I was 20 years old. Imagine being 20 years old and your biggest achievement was, well, now I'm no longer in jail.
Was it more a turn of the page going, I'm done, now I'm going to start a new life? Or is it, fuck, I'm out of that one, I got away with it, let's go back into the... Yeah, okay.
That's a good question. That's a really good question, because most people would say, oh, you know, you went to jail, you know, so then things changed, right?
Yeah.
But the problem with Queensland, and especially Australian jails, especially Queensland prisons, is it's literally an adult kindergarten, much like a lot of work sites probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got pretty much a dick swinging competition constantly in there. You're surrounded by people talking about all the things that they did on the outside. And for me, once again, no trade. My only job prior to this was working at McDonald's when I was 13 years old. I really hadn't done anything with my life. I just learned quickly, where can I get more drugs, and where can I get more customers, and who can I sell them to? Because I was in prison for selling drugs. It literally became like school for criminals for me. And getting out that first time, it was like, right, well, now I'm back out in the world. I can make more money. I can do more of the stuff that I was doing. And the lifestyle that I was living, like, you could really compare it to something that you'd probably see on like an Underbelly TV series. It was, you know, car chases, police chases, using drugs constantly, having to look over your shoulder because my whole life just revolved around the drug trade. It was wild.
How did you deal with that on a day-to-day basis? Because parts of that sound terrifying.
It was honestly the best of times and the worst of times. But once again, at the time, I didn't know anything better. I didn't know anything different. 15 years old, I moved out of home. I would have told you at the time that I was kicked out because I was playing the victim, right? But if you actually asked me what happened, my parents asked me whether I wanted to start following their rules or whether I wanted to move out of home. And so I took the option. It was like, well, I can have the freedom that I want. And very, very quickly, I started smoking weed. And the same day that I started smoking weed was also the same day I started selling it. So I had that entrepreneur's mindset right from the get-go. And things very quickly progressed into where I was, obviously, you know, 3 years, 4 years later in jail. And it was a really slippery slope for me. My whole life revolved around either getting drugs, selling drugs, smoking drugs, or trying to find more money to get drugs. That was literally my whole life. And that was for a good 15 years.
Spoke about your parents then. How's your relationship with them now, with the transformation you've been through? I sound like Lewis Huxtable here, don't I?
You do. I was like, hang on, is this Lewis in the flesh himself? Tell us about your mum. Tell us about your dad. What trauma do you carry from that you don't want any longer? So look, I never really had I won't say that actually. Yes, I did. I generally had a better relationship with my father than I did my mother, but I think that was because for most of my life, I was still trying to seek his approval. He was a hardworking man, your typical bloke. He was a pommy lad, so loved to drink. And every day he'd get home from work, say 5 p.m, and he'd be on the couch and he'd probably sink a bottle of whiskey every night. So my only time that I learned that I was able to connect with him was, sitting in TV. And once again, when I got older, I started to drink. I guess the relationship I had with him was really fragmented at 13 when my parents got a divorce and he ended up having an affair. And I made that mean to me that our dad didn't care about us. And so I spent the next, only till about 4 years ago, really just trying to battle with that and actually trying to find that love for him again. There was a lot of time there where I blamed him for all the things that were going wrong in my life. The fact that I was in jail, the drinking, the drugs, the addictions that I had, the inability to hold a relationship. So my relationship with my dad was, I guess you could say, very rocky from a very young age. With mum, she was, once again, same thing, very, very rocky as well, but it was on a different sort of scale. So dad wasn't there, mum was there so much, and she was very, very anxious. She made me her emotional counterpart because dad wasn't there to fulfill her needs. So my sister and I then became her emotional codependent partners, which meant that any time that we didn't fulfill her needs, we were the bad people. She made us feel a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, not intentionally, but just because she didn't know how to meet her own needs or how to regulate her own emotions. So she used my sister and I to regulate hers. And that's, once again, still something that I'm working through till this day. Our interactions still are, they can be quite hard. She's a lovely woman, absolutely beautiful soul. She's 76 years old and she just really struggles to see the good in life because she's had a lot of hardship. And so her whole lens of the world is that it's an evil and terrible place. And as you guys will probably understand, being around someone like that can definitely have its challenges, let's say.
Yeah. What was a turning point for you? Because you obviously shared you went to prison 6 times. You're very, very successful now, and it seems like it's become your purpose. Kind of helping people get over what you struggled with.
100%.
What was the turning point for you to make that change? Because you said you weren't a quick learner.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't. I was a slow learner. I had many of those little moments along the road, right? They say that you get a tap on the shoulder, a slap in the face, and you get hit by a truck. And I think that I had a lot of truck moments.
I love that. I haven't heard that before.
I've never heard that before.
Have you not?
No, it's good.
Yeah, well, I believe that we always get those signs, right? And some of us are smarter than others. We listen and we trust ourselves and we listen to that intuitive and internal knowledge that's saying, hey, you might be going down the wrong path. Ben, just chill out, all right? Pull up. But I was a slow learner, like I said. So I think it was about the 5th time I was in jail, actually. And I was sitting there. This is the first where I really just started to want to make that change, where I really started to get some understanding of what my life was looking like. And it was a real slap in the face moment. I think I skipped the tap on the shoulder, or at least I had that years before. I completely ignored it. And I remember sitting there, and I was in a unit in Arthur Gorrie Prison, which is in Brisbane. It's called C8. Now, C8 is the induction wing. So anyone that comes off the street, so they could be there for murder, rape, whatever it might be, right? And they're all coming into this melting pot of a unit where everyone just, starts out, and they send you out to all the different wings. And so I was working there at the time. I was in there for this is the longest time I was in prison. I was in there for about 12 months at this point. And I remember one day just really instinctively looking around, and I'm like, hey, I've seen that guy's face. I've seen his face before as well. He's been here, this is like the 3rd time this year. And I was like, look at these fucking idiots. And it really just hit me because this is the longest that I'd been sober since I was 15 years old. I was about 25 at this point in time, so 10 years. And I was like, that's me. That is literally me. And I knew, because I went to good schools. I had good morals, good values, was raised well. I knew that I wasn't fulfilling my full potential and something had to change. And the problem that I had was I'd been in that environment for so long that my whole identity was tied up in the drug trade that I never thought that I was going to be successful unless I was selling drugs or making money through criminal activities. So that was the first real turning point for me. And so I got out of prison not too long after that, and I studied my Cert 3 and 4 in personal training. It's funny how most coaches start out as personal trainers. I don't know what that is, but it's like
I think it's the discipline around fitness.
Yeah.
Like to get into good shape, and your nutrition, your training, your structure, like that creates a lot of discipline. And I think they're the same sort of traits and skills that you can then apply to any business model.
Cool.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I think so as well. As also probably the intention behind it usually is to help people to some degree.
Yes.
You know, so obviously then what coaches like to do is obviously give back to some degree. So I got out, started to become a personal trainer. So at 3 and 4, started working actually we're in Good Life Narang right here, aren't we? Pretty much. I was working at Good Life in Helensvale. It was my first gym.
There you go.
And I was still dabbling. Okay. So my drug of choice when I was using heavily was ice. So I was addicted to crystal meth for 8 years. And when I say I was addicted to it, I wasn't just dabbling. I was using it every day. Like I said, my whole life revolved around the drug trade. And it was, there's some really dark days there. I got out and I did what every PT does. So I stopped doing the thing that was unacceptable and started doing the thing that was cocaine, alcohol, partying with the boys and the clients on the weekend, right? Do an 8-week challenge. Then at the end of the 8-week challenge, we're getting on the bags of the boys. You know, it's just what we did. So I switched flavors, really was still running for myself. And I had an old charge. I don't think I've actually ever said this on air. I had an old charge, so an old criminal charge that came up from 2 years prior. And it was an armed robbery. So there was a man that owed me money. We went to his house and there was footage of us in his house doing things that probably weren't meant to be on footage, right? Or done at all. And my house got raided. And I was literally at the gym. I got a call from the police saying it's Detective so-and-so from Coomera Police Station. You need to come in and talk to us about this event. And there was a part of me there where I was still at the time, I was, selling a little bit of coke. I was, dabbling, partying, just doing what, young boys do. And I had this fork in the road where I was like, I've been given this opportunity. I've gotten out of jail and I've turned my life around. And now I've got this old charge that's come up. And it was either I can go back to doing what I've always done, because what I'd do in the past was if I got hit with a charge, I'd go on the run and I'd just rack those charges up. I think the longest I was on the run was about 12 months and I was bouncing between here, so Gold Coast, New South Wales, Northern New South Wales, up to like Sunny Coast. And this is my life for like literally 12 months, just bouncing around, getting in high-speed chases. And there was that old part of me that was like, well, I'm already going to jail, because it was an armed robbery charge. I was looking at 8 years, my lawyer said. 8 years was what I'd get, probably about 6 years to serve because of a Serious Violent Offenders Act, which means that I'd serve 80% of my sentence instead of doing the usual third for something like that. Then you can apply for parole. And I really had that sort of fork in the road moment there as well, where I was like, I can go back to doing what I've always done, and that's going to guarantee I'll go to jail. Or on some chance, there might be an opportunity here for me to somehow get out of this. And so what I did was I locked in with business. I really put 100% of everything into my PT business, and it started taking off, because now I wasn't selling drugs. I didn't have a skateboard. I didn't have a life raft. So I had to make the business side of things work, and my PT business took off. And somehow, through some miracle and some loophole, we ended up getting all charges dropped. And I remember getting the call from my lawyer that day, and he said all charges have been dropped also. So I was paying him a weekly sum every week to pay for the court. And it was about 50 grand that I had to come up with for the Supreme Court hearing. And he's like, and also because we haven't gone to court, it got dropped before court, you're going to get half that money back.
Oh,
which lawyers don't do that.
Yeah.
So that was like another wake-up call. And I stopped, selling drugs. I stopped partying as much for a little while there. At this point in time, I had a son who was, I think he was about 1 at this time. And I really started to build a relationship with him. But I started to slip back off. And it was like this just undulating pattern of just up and down for years, trying to really get myself sober. And not too long before I had left my son's mother, I remember I was associated with some bikies at the time, and I had a lot of drama with them. I had an incident where I had a 410 shotgun put down my throat over money. I then also remember just once again that I just gotten out of a charge, a big charge with jail, which could potentially look at 8 years, and I still hadn't woken up. And the real, that was the slaps, all the slaps, right? But the real turning point for me, the real thing that I guess was that wake up call for me was I remember it was the 2nd of January, 2022. So it was about 4 years ago, right? And I woke up and I had a black eye from punching on with my housemate. I crashed my brand new Navara, drink driving, the night before. And I made an absolute dick of myself at probably the nicest house that I'd ever been in my entire life in front of a bunch of strangers. And once again, I'd been, stopping and starting with the partying. And I really just remember standing up, crawling over to the basin pretty much, and just looking at myself in the mirror and going, something needs to change. Because at this point in time, I had a son who was growing up without a father. I wasn't the man that I wanted to be, and I told myself I'd never become like my father, but I was exactly like him. And it was just that real looking at myself in the mirror, having a hard look for the first time in what was probably about, let's say 13 years. And I literally decided on that day that I wouldn't be that man anymore.
What was the next action after that?
So that day I started 75 hard.
Nice. Really good.
And I'd wanted to for a while, right? I started 75 hard. And for anyone that doesn't know what it is, it's like a mental fitness, mindset challenge, all the things all in one. And I made it my commitment that I was going to do that and do it to the full depths of its core. And it taught me a lot about myself around discipline, around, obviously how good it was just to actually have some kind of purpose, something to work towards, which is something that I hadn't had for such a long time. At the end of that 75 hard challenge, I had my first boxing fight. Nice. And smoked old mate, got my hand held up. And so that was once again, it was like a really, really big moment for me. And from that point on, so this is going on now 4 years ago, there was only about a year there where I was still partying a little bit, but it was only like 5 times in that year. And I made the choice 3 years ago to go completely stone cold sober. And because every single time that I had got on the piss or got on the drugs or whatever it might have been or gone on a bender, prior to that, I noticed that my business would go really, really well. And then I'd fuck up, go back down. Mm-hmm. And then it'd climb back up again. I'd never end up back where I started. But I just noticed that I wasn't reaching my potential and it was stopping me from really having that consistency that I wanted to have as a father, as a partner, and as a leader. And so I knew that for me, the catalyst to a lot of the issues in my life was alcohol, because I could stop the drugs at any time, but as soon as I have a beer, 2 beers, let's get a bag. And so obviously it wasn't meth anymore, which I justified it because obviously I wasn't, a crackhead any longer.
Evil, yeah.
But I was still doing exactly the same shit, which was running away from myself.
How did you go about changing that identity? Because I've read a lot into James Clear's work. He's written Atomic Habits for the listeners who might not know. Incredible book. I honestly think after reading that book, that was a catalyst for kind of pushing us or myself on this road. I never struggled to the extent that you had, but it was that kind of party boy scene where, you'd go up, you'd then party, you'd go down, you're inconsistent. My kids were what really ultimately snapped me out of it.
How many kids you got, bro?
2. No, so I got 2. So 3 and 9 months.
Yeah, nice. You got kids, bro?
Nah, no, I got a dog.
Close enough, bro. It's a big responsibility. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah, but it's that identity shift, and I love to hear that you've done 3 years sober now. We're actually attempting at the moment. We haven't told many people yet, but we're doing a year off the booze, 2026 off the booze.
Not attempting, you are.
Yeah, we are.
You got to own that.
We're solid.
Yeah, we are very solid. We won't lose to each other. That's the thing. But we've done that. I've done 6 months. And you've said 6 months because I'm running the marathon. And I do the marathon. That's the big event.
And what do you do after the marathon that night?
Fucking bender. You
every time.
Go and rip
every
the lid off.
Every fucking time.
And I'm like, how'd you fucking stop this? Because the 6 months, exactly like you said, I was incredible at business. I was the best partner. I was the best dad. And then you have the bender. You drop.
Let me ask you real quick, what was happening before you made the choice to stop? So let's just say that 6 month period where you were choosing to do a marathon. What was happening for you before that? What was life like?
Hectic. As in before the 6 month sobriety?
Yeah. So leading up to that 6 month sobriety, what did life look like for you, bro? Because I have this conversation every day and it's always the same thing, right?
Chaos and partying. You party too much and you've got the bad habits, and then you get to a point where you hit the trough, right? And you go, fuck, I can't do this anymore. Something's got to change.
So what was the catalyst for you at that point?
For me, it was a kid.
Yeah.
I came home one day, and this was when I did the first 6 months sobriety, and it was when my missus was pregnant. I hadn't even become a father yet. And as you all know, men become fathers the day that baby comes out. Women become mothers the day they're pregnant and they're growing that baby. Yeah. I remember in the 9 month pregnancy, there was a period in 10 weeks where I was probably out 6 weeks in a row. And I came back one day and she was just in tears on the sofa at 10 o'clock. Because again, I said, I'll go for a couple of beers. You stay out. She's in tears. She said, I'm not doing it on my own. So then I did the 6 month sobriety, and it's amazing. You feel great. You forget.
Do you know what it is?
And then you slowly slip back.
Because there's only 2 motivators in life, right? You probably already know this. Pain and pleasure.
Yeah.
And so when you're at that point to make that choice to change for 6 months, your motivator was pain.
100%.
As soon as you're out of pain, what happens? Mm-hmm. You lose motivation.
Yeah.
And you start to justify it back to yourself, because you're talking about identity, right? So identity takes time, and usually the first 0 to 7 years is what starts to form that ego or that identity. And then obviously the behaviors that we learn to cope with who we've become then become our habits, our behaviors, all that sort of stuff. So if you've been partying, what age did you start drinking and partying?
16.
Yeah.
17.
Yeah. So for me, it was 13. What about you, bro?
14.
14. Yeah. So we all started quite young. And so now, how old are you guys?
30.
Yeah. So you got at least, 15, 16 years there of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And it took you 16 or 15 years to reinforce that behavior. And so what happens is you stop for 6 months. It's real easy. but there's still that part of you, that pathway, if you like, that little voice, I'll call it a little bitch voice, that little bitch voice in your shoulder that's just going, drink. Come have one. It's all good.
It's never fucking one.
You miss us. It's a fucking fallacy.
Yeah.
I did this reel just the other day talking. It's like I was in like a David Attenborough voice, talking about like the addict in the wild.
Oh,
it's
real
like,
good.
It's like me at the fridge with one beer, and he says it's just going to be one beer. An interesting fallacy passed down through generations.
That's cool.
It's so true, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to go for one, which is what you use to convince yourself to get yourself through the door, to then obviously just open the floodgate. But the identity side of things, right? People think it's grand gestures. I'm going to do this big event. I'm going to do this thing and change like that. It literally doesn't have to be that massive, right? It's very, very simple. For me, the thing that really, I guess, helped me to create like lasting change was, number one, the why has to be big enough. Doing a marathon isn't enough. Losing your partner potentially could be. And this is a lot of the conversations that I have with men, like especially lately. Every single one of the men that I talk to, that I work with, they're coming to me because their partner is literally disconnected. She's been checked out for months, but they haven't even noticed because they're still too pissed to see what's going on, right? And then she's given them the ultimatum, and it's actually slapped them like what's actually happening. But you need to have some kind of significant emotional event or some kind of why that is big enough and bigger than the actual pain of making the change. Because what happens generally when we stop drinking, and this is the thing, right? If you talk about what you were talking about before, Harvey, which was you were drinking because of the chaos of your life. And so if you weren't drinking, you didn't have any outlet, which means that you probably then would have to sit there in your own shit and deal with the parts of yourself that you didn't want to look at, right? Which is why we drink a lot of the time, which is why we party. Like, yes, there is a certain element where it's enjoyable, but there also becomes a point where it's no longer enjoyable and it's a coping mechanism. And when you make that distinction between the two, that's when you start to realize that it's maybe is an addiction to some kind, or at least it's an unhealthy coping mechanism which is no longer serving you. Because obviously the drinking at one point in your life was something that gave you fun, it gave you joy, it gave you happiness. But then it just becomes something that's, I need this because I need to shut down. I need this because I can't handle life. I need this because I feel like so much shame around the things that I've done in the past that if I don't have this, I have to sit with my shit, and that's a lot more painful. And so it's about, the fact of the matter is, like, you need to have something big enough that's going to outweigh the pain of making that change, because as soon as you stop drinking, as soon as you stop taking the drugs, as soon as you stop doing the insert self-sabotaging habit here, womanizing, gambling, overworking, whatever it might be, it comes in so many different shapes and sizes, even scrolling on Instagram. As soon as you remove that, you then are forced to sit with your shit. And every single thing that you've pushed down for so long will come up. And so a lot of the time, yeah, you can do 6 months, but then you get to a point where it's like you justify to yourself that you're okay, but you still haven't worked on the deeper underlying belief or the deeper underlying issue as to why you were struggling with self-control in the first place. And so it comes through those small, consistent, conscious changes like James Clear talks about, right? It's the 1%. That's where the change comes from. It's not the grand gestures. It's not the big events. It's not the things that, everyone thinks it is. It comes down to making that choice and then just doing that same thing day after day after day after day. Because a lot of the time what happens is when we get the result, right, we feel good, and then we stop doing the things that got us there in the first place because we, it becomes monotonous, boring, the excitement wears off, yet the progress and the results are always formed in the monotony of doing the same thing.
The journey, not a destination. One thing you said there really kind of hit me in the guts. It was about
I've got a few of them got me.
But this one is like one that I thought was innocent, but now I'm actually it's fucking not. And it's replacing on the piss on the weekend. Now I'm not.
Yep.
I'm diving into work, but I fucking love it.
Yes.
But is it also a distraction as opposed to being able to sit there and just not do anything? And we've got loads going on, as you do, mate. There's a million things we could do all the time. There's never an end.
With business, there never is.
Right? And I love it, right? It's not a chore. I fucking froth it. So then I definitely am working far more than I was. But before we stopped drinking, I guess. In my head, I'm saying, but that's because the business at this stage now, it needs more to then eventually you're going to get to that point where it runs itself and life's good. But as I'm saying these words, I can sound like I'm full of shit.
Do you hear yourself as you're speaking, right? Because it's a justification, right?
We all find something else.
We all find the thing. When was the last time, Adam, that you actually just sat with yourself and were completely present without a phone, without any distractions, and just sat?
For an actual period of time. Actually, here's a good one for you. I went on my honeymoon, went to New Zealand, my missus, camper van, landed Christchurch, go down to Queenstown. Expected us both, because both had a hectic year, to just be fucking fully switched off. Mate, we're still scrolling probably 2 hours a day. sat in the van, the mountain snow covered on. You got
You're taking a photo, don't worry about getting uploaded instead of actually sitting there and enjoying it.
I just see old mates fucking at the RSL. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Weird.
That's it. And so there's this interesting term that a lot of the guys that I work with use. It's called boredom, right? And boredom is only an absence of being able or having an inability to sit with self. Because when you're truly capable of actually just sitting in your own company, you'll never truly be bored. Boredom is the need to continually keep yourself busy. And if you're continually keeping yourself busy, it's because there's something that you're probably avoiding or not wanting to sit with. Maybe it's shame, maybe it's guilt, maybe it's, like you said, even just the thought of striving for more in business. Right, but that's also the thing that causes us to burn out and turn back to the old behaviors that have kept us stuck or got us there in the first place.
It's so hard because we used to say, and we've been proven wrong many times on these kind of couches, the chip on our shoulder is our superpower.
It is.
The working class background, the fucking we are going to graft our cock off until we make X, Y, Z. So I love when I'm in that almost kind of manic state where I'm just going to do a million things at once. I'm so productive. I'm probably doing a week's worth of work in a day. It's absolute Superman. Fucking billings on the board, main man, right? Just
things
flying.
are getting done. Yeah.
But then when I'm not in that, I don't feel like I'm as productive as I could be. But then I'm like, but then the world I'm building towards and the shit I'm doing and being so productive to get to is a state of peace and calm and presentness.
Yeah.
But am I actually ever going to fucking want that?
That's right.
Now, I enjoy the hustle of getting there.
It's the hedonic treadmill, isn't it? Like you just fucking stay on it. I don't know if you've ever found this. We did a bit of work with a coach, and she basically said to me, "You are severely addicted to dopamine." Because she's 100%. Like, at 16, we were professional footballers. At 18, I was playing for my hometown club in front of 4,000 people every week. They were singing my fucking name. At 11 years old, I was a season ticket holder in that stand. My dream wasn't to play for Man United or England. It was to play for Hereford and have them sing my name. And I fucking did it. And at that age, the dopamine that gives you,
100%.
like when that's ripped away,
100%.
She just says you've been chasing that same dopamine hit through partying. And she's like, and that's why it's always one more. She's that's like, right. It's never enough because you're so desensitized to such high levels of dopamine. She's like, the normal, what normal levels of dopamine would give the normal person a good hit and they'd be fucking happy with that and just 100%. Sit in it. She's like, that's not enough for you. So you go one more and then you go one more and you've pushed it and then that becomes your new norm. So then you got to go one more
that's
again.
Right. That's the new set point. So for me, I was a meth addict, right? Which is like, I'm not trying to sell the drug here, but there is no better feeling than smoking a fucking pipe. The hairs on the back of your neck stand up. It feels incredible. But then you spend the rest of your life chasing that same high. Yeah. I jump out of planes for fun, right?
Oh, nice. That's Andy out here.
Yeah, really? Yeah, awesome. It's great, right? It's great. And that's my thing. And I feel like in a flow state and like in complete state of zen, I'll jump out of a plane and I'll literally just sit there in the sky and look out over Byron Bay. And I'm just sitting, just looking at the sky. And that's like relaxing for me.
That's your dopamine release.
Because the set point for me to actually have that excitement of something to be like, this is new, this is exciting, this is adventure, it's so high. And I think that's exactly the same when it comes to business. We thrive in stress, we thrive in chaos. Our nervous systems are so conditioned to that. And so it's really about the practice of being able to pull that back and get comfortable sitting with yourself and sitting in the calm. Because otherwise you'll get to where you want to go.
What's next?
And it's never going to be good enough.
Yeah. It's the acceptance as well. The hard thing that I know we both struggle with, we could take a week off, sit at home, do nothing, sit by the pool, and that's okay. And we probably should do that. But then I'm also sat there going, yeah, what am I leaving on the table? Because that's just the innate desire to win, which has probably come from our professional football days. It's always, there's always something you can do. There's always a skill you can be better at. So to sit there for a week, and I know that my competitors are trying to call my clients or they're calling the live opportunities.
You don't want to think that thought.
You just can't sit with it. So then I'm like, oh, maybe the week off around the pool. Like I got to a point where, again, justifying it, talking myself into it, I'm like, I become more stressed as a father, a partner within myself, knowing that works out there and I'm not in control of it, rather than just sitting here enjoying the time off. So I don't actually enjoy the time off. I can't wait to get back through the door and take control again.
See, there's like a double-edged sword there, isn't it? Because it really is like you love what you do. And when you have a business, something that you're building for yourself and something that you're really working towards for a higher purpose, like you will get up every single day and be fucking stoked to walk into work, right? But then on the other side of that, obviously, it's the capitalistic world we live in is we always want more. And we're being marketed to every day to say that if we're sitting by the pool, relaxing with the family, you're a lazy piece of shit. Do that when you're 60, you know? You shouldn't be doing that. And this is the other thing, like obviously with Instagram, social media, we're seeing all these overnight successes, young millionaires, young billionaires that are making bank. It really just pushes us to feel like this is, I guess I'm speaking for myself and hopefully you guys can relate to this as well. but it always feels like you're not doing enough. But I think that the hard thing for me as well with that was I replaced my addiction with business, just like you guys to some degree. And I got stuck into a point there for a little while where I also then attached my identity to the business.
Yep, big time.
And it was the self-worth piece. And so the constant battle for me, and also for the guys that I work with, and I'm sure you guys go through this as well, is really trying to detach who I am and who the business is, and remember they're two separate entities. Because if you are one, then you always have the ability to be let down, to feel like you're not doing enough, to feel like you're not good enough because you haven't achieved that result yet, or you haven't done this, you haven't served that client, you let this client down. And that's the battle of business, isn't it?
You've almost, because you shift your addiction from drugs to business.
Yeah.
You're still an addict.
100%.
I feel that.
We're all addicts.
Which is probably also why we're so good at it, which is, it's the tough part.
Gabriel Mate talks about this. I can't remember his exact words, and I'm probably going to butcher this. But
I always do this, mate.
Yeah, I was running.
Yeah, go on.
I was running. So there was this time there was this dog with an elephant and a cat. No, nothing like that. So he speaks about and I remember he opened one of his seminars and he went to the crowd and he said, all right, to everyone, put your hand up if you're an addict. And there was a small amount of people that put their hands up in the crowd. And then he explained what addiction is. And the addiction is the striving or the need to do something, and sometimes to the point where it means that you have pushed other values, morals and things to the side. I once again butchered it, right? And he's like, so is there anyone in the audience that can relate to that? And every single person put their hand up. Whether it be, okay, my value might be rest or recovery, but every night I'm on my phone scrolling on Instagram. Mm-hmm. I have an addiction to the phone. Right, I might have a super high value around health, but I'm eating shitty foods because, for whatever reason. And, is this business, again, once again, like my highest value might be family, but my current actions don't align with that because everything that I'm doing is going into the business.
Which you kid yourself to saying it's for the family, right?
That's right, but that's also ego.
Yeah.
That's also just justification, because at the end of the day, the family, especially kids, and I think about this now, like I said, so I didn't say this previously, you said before that, you become a father the day your son's born. I didn't become a father for the first 6 months of my son's life because I wasn't present. I was a piece of shit. I chose not to be in it. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. But now I do everything that I can to be present. And I justify the fact that sometimes on some days my son would be sitting outside my office door crying for me by saying, how ungrateful are you because I'm doing this for you, when really it was all for me.
Yeah, I remember I kind of had that similar penny drop moment where when we started this business, we put a lot on the line. My partner.
How long you guys been in business with this business?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we put a lot on the line. My partner, we just had our first daughter. She was 6 months old. Her maternity pay from the government had finished. She had no external or additional help from her company. So we put everything on the line, and I said, it's a big risk, but I'm doing this for us. Like, this is so we can spend more time together. Yeah. And then you feel yourself slipping into that just like rhythm of just working far too much and not seeing them and not being present. Or when you are present, you're super stressed out and you're just vacant because you've got nothing more to give.
Yeah, man.
And I was like, fuck, this isn't why we started. This isn't why we started this journey.
Even more so, like you said, and this is something that I struggle with as well, is like being the sole breadwinner. Like you said, so your partner.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot because now you've got a family to feed. And then you feel everything. So that means you're across all the numbers and you're making sure that these are getting paid on time and this is happening, and making sure that everything is running like a well-oiled machine, which then takes away so much more of your bandwidth that you could be giving to the family.
9 more families to feed out there.
That's right. And even more so now you've got staff, right? So we're about to make our first proper hire. My partner and I, we're in the business together, and even that has its own challenges, right? But it's also a beautiful thing because she's a very, very, very high-functioning, driven woman. When we first met, she had her own social media company, but we were both in business with 2 separate sets of problems, and we're both going to the same place. So why not just do it together?
Love that.
Which is beautiful. But once again, it does have its challenges as well. Every conversation is always around business. Oh, we could be doing this, we could be doing that. Once again, like you said, you could be relaxing by the pool, but also being that the home is the office. We're always finding something else to do in the business, right?
Yeah. I'm so excited to dig into the business because I love something you said very, very early on, that you've been in entrepreneurship. From the day you started selling drugs, whatever anyone says.
We were very similar. We just sold sweets at school.
Yeah.
Different kind of candy.
Sugar as a drug,
Different kind of candy. It is. It truly is.
But that's entrepreneurship. And even what you said there, you were trying to think about how you could get more money to get more drugs to get more money.
Oh, man.
That's fucking business. Hey, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Two Blokes One Business podcast.
Now, apart from being world-class podcasters, we also run a recruitment agency called Harwell.
If you're keen to learn a little bit more about what we do, then head over to our Instagram @Harwell Group and check us out.
Back to the app.
Drug addicts are fucking resourceful. I think about this all the time. I'm like, if something's important enough to you, can get the money. I don't know. I would literally wake up with $0 to my name, and I'd have enough $8,000 for an ounce by the end of the day.
Fuck yeah.
And like, how? Yeah. I couldn't do that now if I tried.
Yeah.
You know, and most of the time it wasn't through doing anything too bad by other people. It was just word of, slate of mouth. You know, and just swindling. So it's crazy to think about that, right? But yeah, that's definitely always been something that's been there is I feel like as I've gotten older, I haven't seen it as much, but the ability to see money in something and then be able to turn that into an actual business or to turn that into a profit of some kind, right?
So you drive back then, buy more drugs because you're addicted. What's the financial motivator now? Is it ego to be successful and look successful?
There's that.
Yeah.
There's definitely a massive point of that. However, for me as well, like I think about the state of the world that we're in and I want to make sure that my kids are set up.
Yeah.
My partner and I are very, very big on having land where if anything were ever to happen in the world, we have enough resources, enough people that we obviously, people like, Louis, people like Chris, like that we all on the same page where if we needed to, we could have a compound and be able to live off the land if anything ever did happen in the world, right? So that's our motivator, is to create massive impact, number one, but number two, to also make sure that our kids are set up for the future, because it really is, there is, as much as it is doom and gloom and fear mongering, like the world we live in, there's you don't know what's going to happen next. And so our biggest drive is really making sure that, we've got enough there to make sure that our kids are safe.
I feel like your experience with the drug dealing and addictions probably served your business on two fronts. Like I looked into your business and what you do and your content, and some of it resonates so much because obviously, and I want you to share that you're obviously helping people get over that the same problems you had. So that's probably that experience that you had is your drive and your purpose. But then through the drug dealing, you'd have probably learned a lot of business skills in terms of how to negotiate, how to market, how to be resourceful, how to run your books effectively.
I don't know about running books effectively. Like I don't know if I was running at a loss, but I was pretty much dead even all the time. I had a severe
You were reinvesting the profit.
That's right. Yeah, that's right, into my nostrils.
That's it.
I think that's the thing, right? I really did learn a lot from that. It taught me at a young age. And you know what, actually, let me put this out there. I'm so glad that I had abundance of wealth. There was a point in time there when I was, it was before I went to the jail for the last time. And I remember dropping a duffel bag full of money on the ground and counting it. There was $600,000. Right. And that was from a week's worth of what I was doing. And the beautiful thing about that is that my set point for where I feel comfortable when it comes to money means that my belief is that I can make it. Whereas there's so many people out there that go into business and they'll self-sabotage when they get to a certain point of money because they feel like they don't deserve it or they're not capable of making a certain amount. So I guess that was a really good thing that whole side of the world taught me. But like you said, the most important thing that I think I took from that whole period of 15 years of my life, because that's what it was literally almost half my life was revolving around that, was that it gave me a story, which means that I can relate to so many men that would go to a typical therapist, counselor, AA, NA, and feel like they don't fit in or feel like they can't gel with their therapist or feel like they're being judged. And so for that, I'm grateful every single day for everything that I put myself through. And it, honestly wouldn't be the man I am if it wasn't for that.
There's one more transferable skill we haven't spoken about, and I've kind of got a bit of this. I had a lot of freedom as a kid. My mum was super trusting, and you'll be all right. I could kind of go out, I can get on my bike and go anywhere I wanted to and just figure shit out. So I was around a lot of people, a lot of older people, and you kind of just get very good at being in social settings and being in rooms that you're not accustomed to.
Yeah.
But you'd have been in the fucking same boats, mate, with some of the stuff you'd have got up to as a young buck. And then what does that mean for business? Things that you've got no social anxiety. You're not scared about picking up the phone for someone,
You would think so, right?
Okay.
So I'll actually take you guys back. The reason that I got addicted to drugs wasn't because of the feeling, or obviously at the time I didn't understand this. It wasn't because of the avoidance of what I wanted to not deal with in my life. It was because when I had drugs, I had confidence. When I had drugs, I got power. I had people around me. I was a bit of a misfit as a kid. And obviously anyone that has drugs will attract anyone else that has them, right? And so I had that community. So you're right. Yes, I could be in any room. But because I had such a big portion of my life where I was dealing with criminals, bikies, unsavory characters, when I first stepped foot in the gym floor and I get told to walk the gym floor and pick up clients, I didn't know how to talk to someone. I couldn't sit here and have a conversation with you guys. So yes, to some degree, but it was fake confidence. And I had to actually rebuild that at the age of 27 to really learn how to communicate and how to talk to people. So I didn't get that as a transferable skill, but because I didn't have it, I had to learn it really quick. And it's something that now I'm able to, I feel like I can walk into any room and have a conversation with anyone. And go to big events and don't feel anxious anymore. But there was a very long period of time there where it was like, and I think that's shame from not being able to reveal who I was and what had happened in my past, to the point now where obviously I'm out and proud on Instagram. Like, this is me. If you don't like it, fuck off.
Yeah, good.
Which is like getting, really into that authenticity and that vulnerability piece. But yeah, for a very, very long time, that was something I actually really struggled with.
Yeah.
Can we dig into the business?
Yeah,
One,
bro.
I want to hear about the work you do, because again, I've seen your content. It's awesome. I mean,
Thank
you're
you,
doing
bro.
some
I really
really
appreciate
cool
that.
things.
Yeah.
And hopefully helping people not get as far into, a bad spot as what you did.
Yeah,
But then
well,
keen to hear about the
before they
journey of
do.
business as well.
Yeah. So I guess, obviously, like I said, started as a PT. I was a PT for about 6 years. COVID hit, set up a gym at home, and never went back to actually working in a big box gym. So I guess I sort of learnt marketing, and especially when it comes to sell by chat. So, in the DMs, chatting to people, that sort of stuff. Hey, you need some help with your fitness, this and that. And that was my real, I guess, first branch out into the online market, because I always just thought that the only way that I would make money was selling drugs. Then I changed that belief to now I can actually make money helping people. Then I changed that belief from I have to use my hands so I can use the keyboard, and that was a big thing. And there was a point in time there, actually, I think it was after I was speaking about before, where I got hit with that armed robbery charge, where I'd been hiding my story and not talking to anyone, which is once again why my business probably struggled, because I was so insecure and ashamed to go and talk to anyone on the gym floor just in case they find something out about me. And I went to the PT's office, the PT manager office, and had a conversation with my PT manager. I told him absolutely everything. And I got the opposite reaction to what I thought was going to happen. And he's like, how can we support you?
Wow.
And I was like, and that really just removed that barrier for me to be able to actually speak about my story. And so a couple of months later, I remember I was sitting there struggling for content one day, and I put a photo up, right? I'm pretty sure it was a carousel. And there was a photo of me, like just jacked, like as I was that day. And on the left-hand side, it was like me jacked. On the right-hand side, there was like 3 photos of me, I think I was about 59 kilos, dripping wet, just looking like an absolute junkie. And the big caption across the screen just said, I was once an ice addict. And I put that out, and I literally just put a full write-up, and the feedback that I got confirmed that I'd been completely wrong about how the world would perceive this, because no longer was I that person anymore. Like, I was always the same person, but I just obviously fell off track. And I judged myself on how I saw myself, which then meant that I thought that the world would judge me as well. But everyone loves an underdog story.
Tom.
Everyone loves a recovery story. And so I started putting that out there, and I noticed that gradually people started to gravitate towards me. And so I started out, when I actually started, I guess you could say, coaching, working with men and women around drug and alcohol self-sabotage, using my story to say, like, if I can do it, so can you, because I'm nothing special, right? And then I found that I really struggled, because at this point in time, I had zero emotional intelligence. I really struggled to be able to actually connect and relate to women. And I could only relate to women that were very heavily in their masculine. So I started focusing just on men. And I was doing one-on-one coaching, which was great. Like, I had some amazing results. I remember my first client was a guy that I actually had him on my podcast, and he had no idea he was my first client until I had him on the podcast.
Wow, yeah.
But he was a dude that lived in my street that was still a very good friend of mine, Sam, absolute legend. And I met him in my street because where I was living in Hope Island, we had like a boat mooring, and his boat was parked in my mooring. And I wanted to find out whose boat it was so that I could obviously get him to move it. And I called him. I got his number off one of the local guys that had another boat as well. He's like, I know whose boat that is. And I got a call off him, and he's like, yeah, apparently my boat's in your mooring, and someone said you're pretty upset about it. And the guy that I'd spoken to had said I was real pissed off. And so he was thinking, I wanted to punch his face in. I'm like, nah, dude, all good. Like, you've got one as well, right? Why don't I just park my boat there? He's like, oh, that's easy. And we became really good mates. And then anyways, I found out later on that he was really struggling with drinking. So very successful business, doing fascia and scaffolding around the houses as they're being built. And yeah, he wasn't present with his kids, had 2 beautiful little girls at home, and he'd literally sit in the garage and smoke cones until he came in, until he felt like he was ready to deal with the children, and then he'd just be completely checked out. And so I worked with him and just got some incredible results, and I was like, there must be something in this. There must be something in this. And so I built this program to work with guys one-on-one, and I noticed that what was happening then was I was justifying the fact that I was working so much with the fact that I was helping people and that I was doing this for my son. As I said before, there was a period in time, this one moment actually, where I was on calls back to back from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. And my son had just come back from daycare. I picked him up, put him in front of the TV, obviously the easiest babysitter we can have. And I heard him on the wooden floorboards come and like walk and sit outside my bedroom, not bedroom door, my office door. And I was like, what's up, buddy? And he started crying. And he's like, Dad, what are you doing? Why can't you spend time with me? And I got so angry at him. I'm like, I'm working. I'm trying to provide for you. I'm trying to give you the life that I never had. And then that's when I really realized that what I was doing was trading my time for money, and what I was doing wasn't scalable. So I started building out a group community, which is what I have now, the New Age Man. And the New Age Man is a community for men who have maybe fallen off track, been in that path, but want to become the best fathers, partners, lenders they possibly can, and want to be in a community of men who also want to do the same and don't want to be judged. So we have like weekly calls that we run. So around different topics, I have like breathwork facilitators. I have Chris come on from time to time. We run masterclasses, have Q&A sessions, but I've created this community where it's just really men who want to do better. You know, because the thing that I found as well when I was going through my processes of trying to get better and trying to sort myself out was I went to psychologists and counselors, and I went through a couple, and there was a couple that I felt like I was getting judged because the stories that I was telling them were just so fucking far-fetched, you know, and these are things that I guess you could call them stiffs, which are just, you know, everyday civilians would never be able to fathom. You know, I almost felt like I was being judged. And I felt like I was able to talk with no action. And so, yeah, that was something that I started to learn was I needed to actually find a mentor or someone that had been where I was before to make that change. And so what we do is we actually have actionable steps, because at the end of the day, when it comes to addiction, this is the thing, right? Every single one of the men that come to me, they come to me with a problem with drugs and alcohol. And after pulling back what's actually going on, how many do you think actually have a problem with drugs and alcohol?
Hardly any.
Zero.
Yeah.
Not one. Because it always comes back to self-worth. Childhood traumas, things that had happened throughout life, a significant emotional event that told them that they weren't good enough, and the only way for them to feel like they were enough was drinking drugs, or, you know, they're trying to cope, push something out. And so I guess that's also what differentiates the business that I run from, you know, your AA, your NA, and a lot of other counselors. Not saying that any of those methods don't work, because they do. I think there's definitely a place for them. But once again, there's no such thing as one size fits all. And with the model that we've built, we have men that obviously have been there before, which then give other men hope. You know, so it's not just me coaching, but there's also other men in there that have, you know, walked the same journey, that are able to give the men that are firstly, you know, coming in for their first couple of weeks hope as well.
That's powerful, two fronts, right? One for the first person who walked in the door, seeing proof, but how powerful for the person who's then delivering that, reaffirms their identity of the transformation that they've made.
It's that full circle, right? Yeah. You talk about the hero's journey. Yeah, you know, so the hero's journey is like the, you know, no problem awareness. They're starting in the ordinary world, and then you go through the process and you get back to the ordinary world with returning with the elixir, which for this, I guess, and I always base the work that I do off that, taking a full circle. One of the last modules that we work through in the actual coursework itself is them doing similar to what I did, which is a front-facing video and then sharing that with their platform.
Wow.
Talking about their story. Because it's like, here I am, you know, letting go of shame, letting go of guilt, letting go of anything, and being vulnerable. And the amount of men that then reach out to them saying, thank you so much for sharing your story because you've given me hope. It's just that there is enough for them to go, okay, I'm on the right path.
Goosebumps then.
Yeah. We did a podcast episode a few weeks ago, and it was why don't more people treat their relationship with their partner like a business? And I think
100%, man.
Yeah, but I think not enough people are doing it just with themselves in life. Yeah, like the one thing I love, social media, to all the bad things that it has brought, like one of the most positive things is people like you who are able to share your story, and it's a platform to promote it and help other people going through the same.
Yeah,
and that's, if you're looking for a business consultant, this is where I'm going with this. I would not pay thousands of dollars for a business consultant to help grow Harwell, our recruitment business, if they hadn't fucking grown a recruitment business
If they hadn't done themselves, that's right.
Yeah. So then why are we, because I had the same experience. I went to a psychologist who I couldn't relate to at all because he hadn't walked the same path as what I was doing. So why is there not more of a platform where people are treating their own decisions in their personal life to go and seek out help with people like you who have actually walked the path
themselves, right,
and done it? And that's probably why with your PT business, when you went full authenticity, and you said people, hey, if I took my life from here to here, imagine how I can help you do that.
That's right.
That probably got you clients because people were inspired by your story, but then could relate to it.
Well, the thing is as well, I think vulnerability is a massive connective piece when it comes to building relationships, right? And when I was holding back, people feel that.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to shame and guilt, people can really feel that on you because I was treating people as if they already knew that I knew what was going on, right? And so it was almost like I was repelling them. And so when I was able to be vulnerable, what it does is it shows people, hey, if he's willing to show that about himself, I can trust this guy because, you know, he's literally given me enough to really hang him. You know, and that's something that I think I really express with a lot of men that I work with. One of the last sections, so like the program I run, it's like three core elements or three pillars. The first one's self-discovery, because without actually knowing how far broken, I guess you could say, or how far gone you are, and actually getting an audit on your life, obviously like you do in business, right? You take an audit, you take stock of what's going on. You're taking inventory of your entire life, every single area, to see where things are falling apart, where your needs aren't being met, where you might be neglecting things. And once you've got that on paper, it's like a slap in the face. You can't unsee that, right? You guys know what the wheel of life is?
No.
Okay, so Tony Robbins uses this exercise. It's very, very common in personal development. So the wheel of life is a wheel, right? And it's 10 areas. It's like health, wealth, professional life, social life, love, so on and so forth, spirituality, all these things, right? It's the 10 areas that most of us would see as being important to feel fulfilled or have a fulfilling life. And what I get them to do is I get them in this wheel, say the middle of the wheel is the 0, all the way out to the end is the 10, right? And I get them to rate themselves of where they're at on a scale of 0 to 10 on each of these sections, right? And then they join the dots. And that's the wheel that they're driving through life with. Now, you can imagine what this shape looks like, right? It's fucking spiky, looks like a mace a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so that's a real wake-up call for them to see where they're at. So the first thing is obviously looking at where they're at, first of all, so they can make the change. But then the second part is most of the men that come to me, and whether they're in a relationship with a partner or whether they've got a poor relationship with themselves, they all have terrible relationships. And the quality of our life is dictated by the quality of our relationships, as you know, right? When you have a fight with your partner or when you have a fight with your wife, it doesn't feel nice, does it? And life's shit after that until you repair and reconcile. So the way that we build stronger relationships is through communication, which is something that we as men are not taught how to do. We get taught how to shout and deal with problems in that way a lot of the time, but most of us didn't have great role models when it came to actually conflict resolution and solving problems in a way that makes our partners and even like the people we're interacting with feel seen and heard, which is why obviously in sales, communication is such a big part of that, right? And so teaching men how to actually communicate in a way that, number one, allows them to regulate whilst also feeling triggered, but then also be able to hold space for their partners, creates a really stable environment, which then stops that shift between like anxious and avoidanceness, which is obviously what takes place in a lot of relationships. It's like that push-pull sort of dynamic that takes place.
I think it's in the last 30 years, I think the role of the male or the role of men in life has just changed so much.
Massively, bro.
And it's changed for women as well, but I feel like if you looked at 30 years ago for men and women and today for men and women, the male role or what should be the role has just been flipped on its head.
Well, I think there's also a massive shift in the way that men are showing up, because women are now having to take matters into their own hands, right? The reason that there's so many, and this is my belief anyway, the reason that there's so many, feminists and anti-masculine women is because they have to become masculine themselves, and that comes back to a lack of safety because men haven't been showing up to create safety for them. Right? If we go back to like, ancestral times, it was always the role of the man to protect, to hunt, and to make sure that the tribe was looked after, right? It was always the role of the woman to, look after the kids and raise and create a nurturing environment for the family, right? Yet now we've got such a shift in the polarity of the world where we've got, very masculine women because they feel unsafe to be able to actually feel provided for by a man. We have a lot of men who have slipped the other way, have gone very feminine because they're, once again, maybe didn't have good role models as a father. And then we've got the other side of things where there's so many men that feel like the only thing they need to do is provide for a family. So as long as I'm going to work, as long as I'm putting food on the table and making sure the bills are paid, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And that's where half the problem with a lot of the men that I work with comes from.
The new age man, if I'm thinking about that without having any context, I'm thinking that masculine feminine split's a big part of it, right? Because the old age man will be that traditional provider,
pure
protector, no emotional intelligence, no sensitivity, probably no care potentially as well. Is that a part of what you do, man, and how you're trying to help these men?
Massively, bro. So like I said, obviously, the new age man is able to hold that stable environment and create safety for his family, to be a leader for himself and also for the people he cares about and loves. So back to what I was talking about a second ago, the second pillar is relationships and communication. The third part is self-leadership, because we need to be able to lead ourselves first. And so this is the vulnerability, this is the authenticity, this is the, ownership and integrity. Because so many men talk about, I'm a man of integrity, integrity is important to me, but then behind closed doors, they're not a man of integrity at all. The actions don't align with what they say they're going to do. They're not showing up and being a man of their word. They're not looking after their family. They're doing, I guess, what they think, but not actually addressing the needs of their partner, their kids. And so a big part, and pretty much the only, not the only part, but the biggest part of what we do is really helping men to shift the paradigm of how they see themselves as a man and as a leader. Because it doesn't just come down to providing, which once upon a time it did, right? I can go to work, I can come home and drink, and it's all good as long as I put food on the table and everyone's okay. But there's so much research even now being done that, you know, the father's role in a child's life is just as important as a female's. Because a lot of the time we think, oh, well, baby's popped out now, mum's on it, it's all good, dad can go back to work. Yet there's so many studies that have been done that show that the father's relationship with the kid is also just as important. You know, which is why a lot of the time we have kids that feel disconnected and struggle to connect with other men because they didn't have that connection with their masculine figure or their first masculine figure, which was their father.
So yeah, it's like, how can I expect my daughters to come to me and be vulnerable and share absolutely anything with me and dad will fix it if I can't share my own problems with their mum or with them?
Yeah. Is that something that you struggle with coming into being a father? Because you've got 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Both girls?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that something that you struggle with, actually learning how to be more vulnerable and be softer with becoming a father?
No, because I think we started our kind of self-discovery, personal development journey very close to when I had my first child. So I'd naturally started to do it with my partner. So I remember, you know, towards the end, just before our first child came, and I was kind of in that rut or in that dark place, I sat down with 2 people and said, hey, I'm struggling with this. I needed to change. One was Adam. The other one was my partner. And I was just like, I needed that help and support from these guys to try and make that change of do the 6-month sobriety. And when the lads go, oh, fuck you, why aren't you drinking? Ads and Britt were there going, hey, leave him alone. Yeah. And I think that vulnerability with those 2 then helped me to be more vulnerable as a parent. One thing I keep saying to myself, the way I raise daughters with good standards, and this is only one part of parenting, their standards of what they think men should be in their life is based off how I treat their mother.
That's exactly right.
And it's not necessarily in the big moments of the gifts, the anniversaries, things like that. It's the way you speak to her when you're tired. It's the small snaps when, you know, you're stressed and things like that.
Yes, brother.
That's what they'll learn to accept.
That's exactly right. I make content around this all the time. Like, what you show your children is showing your son how to be a man. Okay, and this is in the small moments. Okay, and showing your daughter what to accept from a partner. It's very simply put, right? So if you're, this is with a lot of the men that I work with, especially, like if they're drinking when everything gets hard, or you know, kids can feel that you're stressed, right? And they see dad drinking. Okay, well, that's what men do when they're, you know, when they're struggling. Or if you know, if your little girl sees you shouting at mum, well, this is what I can tolerate from a man. And it's in those, like you said, those micro moments, and it's not the grand gestures or anything like that. It's in the moments when you don't think they're watching, but they feel everything. We've even had to be mindful of the way that we, like, we're both very passionate about certain subjects, me and my partner. So you know when you're both getting on a rant, and you're on the same side and you're just ranting to each other, but you know the voices are getting louder and things like that. Like we're actually having a great conversation and connecting, but because voices are raised and it's quite a high tempo conversation, sometimes my 3-year-old will come in and go, "Mum, Dad, stop shouting!" Wow,
and I'm like, it hurts because I'm like, one, I don't want her to think that we're arguing, but then I'm also like, there are kids that do every single day see their mum and dad actually screaming at each other, and in some cases it's physical violence as well. Right. I'm like, fuck, must be so difficult.
They see it all, and this is the thing. I remember, like, as a kid myself, you know, it's be seen and not heard. So, like, you know, pretty much do as I say, not what I do.
Yeah,
and that's literally what shaped me into the man that I was. You know, that's really, really what shaped my sister into the woman that she was. But that was the whole era of it doesn't matter what we fucking do, just do what we say. And that created so many dramas, so much trauma, and I guess a whole generation of, like we are now, trying to figure out what's going on.
I'm going to put you under the spot a minute here. I'm thinking if someone's listened to this, and that's like me and Halves have, oh, fuck, that's hit me in the gut. What's kind of a question, 2 questions, 3 questions you'd throw out right now to get them to sit in and answer and kind of digest, to then be able to kind of understand where they are at potentially on the scale of, you know, Ben 15 years ago to hopefully Ben now?
Okay, I want to ask some more context. So where are they? So they're maybe struggling with like substance abuse, or you know, not sure whether they're showing up as the father, partner, or leader they want to be.
Yeah, I'd say in the mid-range, to be honest. I don't think I've got a problem, but you never do until you sit down with it.
That's what I was about to say. Maybe they're not sat there going, I've got substance abuse, but
they're like, you know, curious.
Yeah, but also potentially might have that problem, but don't know they've got that problem.
And you know what it is? They might have that thought on the Sunday morning, but then by the time Thursday runs around,
let's go again.
Oh, no, it's all good. Like I'm just having a couple of beers with the boys.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I guess the first question would be, what lies are you telling to yourself? Because we are the masters of justification. Like you said, let's wake up on a Monday, I'm never going to drink again. And then come Thursday night, it's like, oh, it's just one. But that same pattern is happening every weekend. It's like, what lies are you actually telling to yourself? What lies or what fallacy are you creating so that you can justify your behavior? The second thing, and I think this is something that I ask every single one of the men that I work with, is think about you 2.0.
Nice.
Who is he? What does he do? What does his life look like? And what are the things that he's doing on a day-to-day basis? And if that's who you're trying to become, right? And this is the thing, right? For a man that would be sitting there right now listening to this and he's asking himself that question, there's a reason for it. Because if he is listening to this podcast, he's obviously taken something from it so far. There's obviously a part of him that wants to be a better version of himself, right? Which means he's not there yet. So there's obviously a behavior, a habit, an action, some kind of choice or something that he's doing in his life which is stopping him from having that already. So take inventory on where you're at. First of all, get clear on who you want to become. Like, what does it look like? The you 2.0, the best version of yourself, the man that has everything that you want, is completely content, completely fulfilled, and has the wealth, has the abundance, has everything that he needs. And then take inventory on your life right now and what's stopping you from getting there. Because there's always, once again, like I said, a choice, a habit, an action or something. And we always know what it is. But once again, that ego, the identity, that part of ourselves that is trying to stop us from being the bad guy or stopping us from getting out of comfort or taking ourselves away from who we believe ourselves to be, that's what stops us. And we'll continue to justify until something happens and we need to actually change that justification.
The 2.0 piece is really interesting because one thing I've learned, there's no perfect solution.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, there's always a sacrifice and a trade-off. So I've kind of done that without that sort of exercise without knowing it. And I've gone, what do I want to achieve? And all the things I want to achieve in business, family, self. When I look at the habits and behaviors 6 months ago, whatever it might be, okay, the sesh, the drinking, like all of that impacts that.
Yeah.
But I'd be lying if I didn't say the sesh with the lads is one of the most fun things you can do when it's happening.
I'm not going to take that away from you, bro. Fucking oath it is.
But I also know to go and be that person on a very consistent level, the half 2.0 that goes and achieves all those big goals. I know I can't do any of that because of the person I am, where I'm 0 or a million.
Yeah.
On a debt on like one individual sesh, but also I'm like, if I'm not doing a 6 month sobriety,
I'm doing it every fucking weekend.
I'm doing it every weekend because if I'm not on this big challenge, you do it once, oh, it wasn't so bad, you do it again, and all of a sudden you're in this spiral. So it's really difficult because there comes a point where you have to sacrifice. And like I said, there's nothing more fun than being on it with the lads, but at the same time, it's not serving the person I want to be. And I had that chat with myself of, do you still want to be doing this when you're 45 years old?
That's the thing, right?
Or do you want to be doing, a world tour with Brit and the kids following the F1 with fucking pit passes?
Yeah, get clarity on what you want.
Like, can I now sacrifice those Saturdays down the surf club with the lads to go and have that freedom and that life at the end of it?
Yeah.
The answer for me was yes. I was like, unfortunately, that's the trade-off that you're going to have to make.
That's the thing, because you can't have both.
No.
You can, but you're never going to live to your full potential, right? And unless especially for guys like us that are grinding and trying to make it in business, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're still carrying on with those kinds of behaviors.
The people that say or think they can have both, I think they're just lying to themselves. That's just a lie they're telling themselves to justify the behavior.
Yeah.
And my thing when I was playing football, I'd be on the piece every weekend when we were 16 to 18, and I was good. Like, I was in around the first team, but I'd still be getting pissed on the weekend.
Yeah.
Because then I had this excuse, I didn't make it because I was pissed. If I wasn't pissed, I'd have been there.
Yeah.
But then if I did everything perfectly, there's nowhere to hide.
That's right.
That's
right. It becomes almost like the scapegoat, right? You got something to blame.
Yeah. But I know it's because I was pissed. I had a good time with it. I was out with birds or whatever it was.
Well, that's that self-sabotage as well, isn't it? There's a part of you that maybe believes that you didn't deserve to have that. So in turn, you act in a way that then stops you from having it.
There's a quote that came, it was a Sid Bartlett pod, and it's more about guys getting girlfriends, a male loneliness epidemic. Are you the kind of guy that the person you want to date wants to date?
I do that exercise with all the men that I work with, even if they have partners.
And you can say it in any context as well. Right. Am I the kind of boss that the staff I want to employ want to have as their boss?
Work with. Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? You can do that across everything. And I think that's the most powerful thing. Kind of ties into the 2.0 version as well.
That's exactly
Am
right.
I the kind of father that the kids I want to raise want to have as a father?
Yeah.
That's a fucking best question, hey?
It really is.
It just applies to everything.
Every area of life. It's like why I'm not here and what kind of person do I have to be there? Very simple.
I've absolutely loved this pod. This has been awesome. It's one of my favourites.
That's been class.
Yeah. Mate, any last remarks, I guess? Anything you think we haven't kind of pulled the thread on enough, or anything that's a kind of a really good rounding statement, if you like, to wrap out for people listening?
Man, I think we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot. I guess the main thing is that the thing that I'm noticing is there is a massive shift happening in the world, right? And the things that we used to once enjoy as lads, drugs, alcohol, all those sorts of things aren't as appealing as they used to be. And I just wish that I learned what I know now, 10 years earlier, because I feel like where I'd be in business now, be like, absolutely tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if there's one thing I can finish on, it's just, once again, that piece of, are the habits, the actions and the choices that you're making on the weekend and every single day, are they helping you to, because it's obviously a business podcast, is it helping you to accelerate your business or keeping you stuck?
Where can people find you, mate? If they want to be in the New Age Man community or work with you on a one-to-one basis, where do they come and find you?
Instagram, Ben Lowe Coaching, best place to find me. I don't do TikTok or anything like that. I do have a YouTube, but yeah, Instagram is the best way. And I'm pretty active in the DMs as well. So more than happy to have a chat with anyone that might be listening in.
Incredible, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Mate.
Hey guys, it's Jake and Lockie from Naturally Cooked Sunscreen, and we are pumped to be sponsoring the Two Blokes One Business podcast.
We're on a mission to foster a generation of Australians who take sun safety more seriously and encourage it amongst their mates. You can find us at naturallycooked.com.au or follow us at Naturally Cooked Sunscreen.